When I come home at the end of the night, my day is over. If I can't come home, I didn't win. Winning is coming home at the end of the night. Winning is surviving. Winning is sleeping in your own bed. Winning is not going to jail.
That's a big win.
That's winning. It's not about the tournament. It's not about the trophy. It's not about if I knocked you out or gave you a black eye. It's not about that. It's about survival and coming home at the end of the night. Whether it be coming home to your own personal bed or you coming home to your wife and kid. We have a higher purpose. We have a higher purpose as individuals. We have a higher purpose as men to be protectors and providers. And if we can't satisfy that first duty, then what good are we? What are we here for? It's not about your ego, because your ego can get you killed.
Welcome to the Warriors Way Home podcast.
All right. And we are live. All right, guys. So welcome to Warriors Way Home. We have a special guest today, my sensei. Super happy to have him on the podcast today, man. Really glad he could make the time for us. Sensei Danny Reid, and of course my co-host EDMUND.
What's going on, guys?
Man, we're gonna hop into it. Hopefully have a great conversation today, man. Super excited about it.
Yes, sir. Mr. Danny Reid, thank you so much for joining us today for this episode. You are going to be another one for what is going to be a long line of interviews with both masters like yourself, who we consider to be influential men, either within martial arts practice or just in general, people that have inspired us to raise our level of honor, for one thing, and also just to become better human beings overall. So we just want to thank you so much for taking this time to be with us and let us ask some questions.
So guys, we'll put a caveat on this one that the reason we're having these conversations, and since I talked to you about it, and Edmund, we talked about it, is because a lot of guys don't have the opportunity to have these conversations with legit martial artists. So much now is people seeing people on Instagram, whether it be UFC fighters or, martial art actors or something along those lines. But people who have really been in it, put in the time, in that, more old school hard training is the thing, not necessarily the kind of new stuff that we have going on now, but people who grew up, in, learning the fundamentals, the basics, from childhood to adulthood in a lot of cases, basically grew up in the art. It makes a huge difference. It breeds a whole different mindset from, more of the sports side of things or the entertainment side of things versus like that, traditional mindset of that warrior mindset that we're trying to instill in everybody nowadays. So we'll hop right into it. So give me 1 sec here. Let me turn this off because everybody's texting me now.
Mm-hmm. Is that the traditional gi for Sasori-Ryu?
It's the traditional Japanese gi.
Awesome. Very nice.
So, Sensei, I'll start with the first question. For those who don't know, over the last probably over a decade now, I've been studying with Sensei Danny in ninjutsu. So, Sensei, how would you describe ninjutsu to somebody who has no idea other than Ninja Turtles what ninjutsu is?
Ninjutsu, it's a eclectic art. It's the art of deception, it's the art of illusion, it's the art of covert techniques. A lot of people in special forces, law enforcement, military use ninjutsu tactics as a way of coercion and to decipher techniques that they want to use for their ranks.
Very nice.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, you're mentioning that it's more of a combat deception. What else were you saying about the ninjutsu? We didn't catch some of that. What you were saying?
Ninjutsu encompasses traditional forms of martial arts from various styles across the board. Ninjutsu was a form that was created from villagers that lived in Japan back in those times when martial arts was outlawed and weapons use was outlawed. They used martial arts as a form of way of life and survival against Ronin samurais and the daimyo lords of those times.
Makes sense.
Ninjutsu has survived over the times through generations and generations of passed on knowledge.
Awesome. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people get that background. Like I said, I think the most exposure they have to it now is video games, cartoons, and movies. You know, it's like they don't have a real understanding of where it began. You know, it's like you said, the you know, farmers and people, you know, learning to defend themselves, and it kind of it had an evolution from that point until we see it now.
Yes.
Awesome. So, what's the official name of your ninjutsu style? Is it Sasori-Ryu, or like kind of how did that?
Sasori-Ryu, which translates to scorpion style. I named the system after my own self. Ninjas, our system was derived from my instructor, Grandmaster Floyd, Chief Fukai Ninjutsu. His instructor, Grandmaster Godfrey, the Ninja Turtle system, and I'll go into that later.
For sure. Yeah. So I love how even in these days, because I know it's common with older martial arts as well, it's kind of putting your own spin on things and creating your own system from all the history that you've been able to ascertain through, you know, traveling with different mentors and coaches and senseis and things like that. And did your teachers influence you, or inspire you to kind of create your own system that same way? I know most people are familiar with like Bruce Lee style, like Jeet Kune Do and things like that. Like, yeah, how did you come up with that style?
Absolutely. Ninjutsu, my system was formed from my training from Grandmaster Floyd, James Morrison and Sanukas, Archie Rollin and Yin Yi Ryu, Kung Fu styles from Naeem Souza, Shotokan from Fuquan Ali, Hilton Kinsler. The list goes on, and Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, Kung Fu, Karate, all styles that encompass Sasori-Ryu Ninjutsu.
Awesome. And I love how you still incorporate their lineage as well, you know, for all of it to culminate into what you're now being able to present to Travis, myself, other students, and things like that. So can you describe like a typical training session for yourself for this style?
Of course. Our training session begins with calisthenics. Gotta have conditioning, body development. We'll go over push-ups, bunny hops, ab work, drills, leg work, stances, punches, blocks, self-defense techniques, rolling, sparring, weapons.
What kind of weapons do you practice?
We practice all the Japanese weapons as well as Chinese weapons. We practice kamas, tonfas, sword, bow, sais, ninjutsu stars, shurikens, kwando from Chinese bow staff, Buddha monk spade.
Ooh, I like that one. That's one of my favorites. You had mentioned the kama. Oh,
real quick before we get too deep into it, because I see we're getting right into the sauce now. Let's get a little background. So, you know, since you and I have talked quite a bit about you coming up in Jersey and the training systems there and the training systems in New York, what was it like coming up in the Jersey, New York martial arts scene? What was that like coming up in that?
New York martial arts scene was very, very saturated with martial arts across the board. I mean, you had all of the greats that trained out there back then. You have the Jerry Fontanezes, you have the Adrian Nunezes, the Ronald Duncans, the Felix Vasquezes, the Moses Powells, the Little John Davises. You know, those are the people who I came up under.
Yeah. Yeah, because
And
back then, I mean, it
back
was almost a
then,
mecca.
and the way it still is now,
Yeah.
martial arts is a family. You know,
Mhm.
I recently got the pleasure of going home and celebrating with my instructor. They named Myrtle Avenue in New Jersey after him. You
Wow.
know, it's a great honor, but it's the fact that all of the great martial artists came out to show face and show homage to Master Floyd. Uh, Everybody came out to visit. It was like a homecoming. It's like,
Mhm.
imagine this way: imagine going to high school, but
Mhm.
imagine 95% of the people that you're in high school with is all martial artists.
I love it. That's
You
school I want to
understand
go
what I'm
to.
saying? So it's really deep. It's really meshed in with the culture.
Yeah.
Everybody in New Jersey, for the most part, has an understanding of martial arts.
Mhm.
Whether you're a practitioner or you're just an avid spectator, a lot of people from the East Coast have an understanding of martial arts and how it influences the culture.
Yeah, and I know, especially back then too, there was a lot of, I mean, even it influenced, Wu-Tang Clan, talked about, martial arts and everything like that. You have movies like, all the Bruce Lee flicks coming out. One of your favorites, The Last Dragon. It's coming,
My
coming
favorites
from
too.
there,
Yeah.
showing pieces of that. So yeah, man, it's definitely in a major way. And I know another big piece of that you were talking about was the sparring, your competitions, the sparring competitions, and how that was, the way you explained it to me. It sounded like it was just such a major piece of I mean, to where you guys had whole teams, going and competing from schools all over the place.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Growing up and having that team mentality, and how that influenced your fighting style as well.
Us. Uh, we grew up in the tournament circuit. We competed NASCAR, MBL, and the New Jersey Karate League. Uh, we had a lot of influence from and exposure from like people like Dennis Brown and Lee Ireland and Don Rodriguez, the tournament promoters of the big NASCAR tournaments. Uh,
Hmm.
we have exposure to different areas of martial arts. I mean, we all grew up in New Jersey and New York, but being in martial arts got us out of the neighborhood and got us to travel around. I mean, we
Hmm.
went to Maryland and Washington and Florida, and Georgia, Virginia, just to compete. So it was, martial arts was our exit out of the hood.
Hmm. Oh yeah,
That's
definitely.
incredibly important, because I think when most, especially kids that look like us, I think they feel like they only have to, sing or dance or basketball or football or something like that to have these so many, not even just martial arts themselves, but so many styles that will get you to travel. And that's one thing I kind of didn't pick up on that I wish I would have growing up, because I didn't get back into martial arts till I was more of like a older teenager, but understanding that that could also get you out of the hood or just into better different circumstances with that travel, to be able to see, okay, how do they do things in Georgia, how do they do things in New York, California, Ohio, just kind of, I stayed within, it was either I was out of the country or I was in Ohio, because I felt like traveling was too much. But those greater experiences of, being able to even travel outside of the country for that, but taking those smaller steps of, no, let me just go to a different state and see how it is. And that will, all of it helps you be a better fighter, if not just a better individual, because you get to get those so many perspectives. So it's
Yes.
amazing. Mhm. I was going to say, can you share a memorable experience of a time where you traveled and because of Sasori-Ryu that you were able to gain a different perspective? What was like a key memory for you during this style?
Yeah. I can remember the weekend of the Iron Child Championship. Iron Child Championship was like a martial arts decathlon that I had to compete in.
Wow.
This was in '91. On the way to that tournament, the van that we were in had issues and it had broke down on the highway. But,
Wow.
Floyd always taught us to G up, to put your energy into a situation. So we were all inside that van. That van was not going to start. So we cheat up. We key out nice and loud. And for whatever reason, whether it be God or spirits in ninjutsu, that van started up. And we got to that tournament and we competed and we kicked butt.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's memorable. All right. So you spoke a little bit about spiritual ninjutsu. Tell us about that. What's your perspective on, because I saw within your resume, you talked about metaphysics wasn't something that was outside of the realm of your training. What would that look like for you coming up, and how do you apply it today?
My mentor, my metaphysical mentor was Paka Khan. He taught me about the different zones of the body, of how to manipulate your different areas of your body, not just Paka Khan, but Dan Magita as well. Further lessons as we went down the line went about talking about meditation and developing your chi from the inside, projecting energy outward from your chi.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
There you go.
Excellent.
And you come from a lineage of martial arts too, because your dad originally got you into martial arts at the beginning, right? What age did he introduce you to it?
My father, he trained with Tadashi Nakamura. He was the head of the Sasori-Ryu Kyokushin in New York. My Nakamura school was on 14th Street in Manhattan. My father trained with him back in the days of William Oliver and Dan McGinnis. These were people who were legends back in the day. Derek Williams, you know. People trained with Nakamura back in those days, Kyokushin, Shotokan styles of martial arts. Where it was different than what you train with now. The schools now, the kids, you know, I've seen Happy Time martial arts versus if you don't do something the right way, there was always a.
We caught you with the you were talking about the happy punches, and if somebody
dojos.
If somebody didn't do something right, what ended up happening if in more traditional style versus now?
If somebody didn't do something right,
like as a kid when you're growing up in the art, if you didn't do something right, you know, what did you have to do versus now what they, you know, happy punches and nothing really happens to them or anything like that. There's no let's say consequences for not performing, we'll say.
There was a shinai waiting for you back in the day. There was a shinai waiting for you. Whether you ducked over that shinai or you jumped over that shinai was coming.
Yeah.
You know,
right.
Push-ups on bricks, suspending your body between two chairs. One ankle with your feet on one chair and your neck on the other chair.
Oh wow.
You know,
not even
having an instructor walk across you while you're performing that bridge.
No, thank you.
I mean, it's bad enough doing a plank and you can't hold yourself up sometime. Suspend yourself between two chairs elevated in the air and have somebody walk across you. While your neck develops and gets bigger and your ankles and your back get stronger.
Oh yeah.
For us, it seemed like cruel, unusual punishment, but it was the thing that built us.
Yeah. But the minute you said that, I had two flashbacks. I had a flashback of, remember Bricks, the kid you were training when we were in class. Who? Oh man, Edmund. This kid spent so much time on his knuckles. It was ridiculous, man. It's just like,
oh man,
I
can imagine.
And overall, he was a good kid, man. But it's just like, you know, I think it was at that age where, you know, boys really start to kind of act up in school and stuff like that. Man, that dude spent it seemed like every class he was on his knuckles. Every single class.
But he has the strongest knuckles though, you know.
But man, but by the end though, he really started to straighten up. I noticed a huge change in his personality and the way he moved by the end. Even the way he talked to his parents shifted. I did notice that. The other thing I remember was having to do the elevated push-ups you made us do, where like you have one person and their feet are stacked on another person and their feet are stacked on another person. You got to do the push-ups that way, and you always have that one person that does not pull their weight in that class. Oh, that used to make me so damn mad. Oh, so mad. I'm sitting there pushing, and you say down, 3 of us or 4 of us have to go down, and all of us got to come up at the same time. And there's always that one person that's waiting down there, and all of us are sitting up, and your arms start shaking. I was like, man, if you don't get your ass up, man, it's going to be me and you after class. Because if these makes us start all over again, we're at 9. We're at 9. We only got to go to 10. It's like, if you make us start all over again, I'm meeting you in the parking lot.
Yeah, ninja push-ups. Remember those days.
Oh, man. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ever done those, man, where it's, but basically it's like if one person's down in push-up position, the next person stacks their feet on top of your back. And then the next person stacks their feet on top of your back. So you just end up building these blocks of humans.
Right. Like human Jenga, pretty much.
Yeah. The human torture dome. Yeah.
So what would you say is like the most important skills or techniques for somebody who's practicing not just martial arts, but like I guess like overall? Because you said that you take a lot from different styles, and I'm sure that you learn so many different training techniques, like Travis is saying, and different tools and weapons and stuff. And kind of circling back to how we were kind of starting to get into the meat of it. What would you say are the most important skills or techniques that an individual needs to learn in martial arts overall?
Going across the board, martial arts can seem similar when you look at different styles. You have your similarities, but the one thing that remains the same is your social training, your perception, your awareness, about your environment. You can have Shotokan, you can have Jiu-Jitsu, you can have Aikido, and everybody will demonstrate their technique from their system. But if you can't perceive threat when it comes, if you can't see a situation happening before it happens, then all those techniques mean nothing if you can't get them off.
Exactly.
So you have to have a awareness, a perception, an enlightenment of your environment, and that to me is something that stemmed on from me and carried on through me throughout my life in martial arts, whether it be my military history, or be bouncing in nightclubs. Martial arts has always been a tool that I can use to my advantage in those situations.
Absolutely.
And that kind of leads into a question I had, where what you just mentioned was, would you say that's kind of the defining difference between more of the sports side of martial arts, which we're dealing with now, like MMA, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, no-gi grappling, that sort of thing, versus like the reality that more the reality of situations of like self-defense, defending yourself, like somebody runs up to you and wants to take your wallet, or you run into a situation in a bar or something along those lines. That there's a difference now, but I don't think people really talk about that difference between sport and reality.
Yeah, that's a huge subject. That's a huge subject. I remember going to school with people who trained in sports martial arts. And when it came down to a situation, they got down in a stance, like a fighting stance right before a fight, like they were ready to start an event. It doesn't happen that way. It doesn't go down like that. When it happens, it just happens. You just have to be prepared. There's people who hop around and flick their techniques like they're doing point drills. Or they'll hit and they'll come back, they'll reset. Because in point sparring, there's the tag and come back, and that develops a mindset that you get into, that if you don't know how to apply actual technique to street application, you'll be fighting tournament fights your whole life.
Oh yeah, there's a huge difference between when you see somebody coming towards you versus when you have somebody coming from behind you. Or
Mhm.
even just in real scenarios, it's like people always train for fighting one person, but when in real life are you only going to have to worry about one person?
No.
It's just not gonna happen. The minute you get into any dude that's been in a nightclub knows that every dude in there generally is with at least one other dude
Mhm.
in most cases. It's like if guys are rolling to the club, most guys don't roll the club by themselves. It's like, so if you get an altercation with a guy, and let's say you guys start arguing about something, maybe you're talking to his girl or whatever it may be, you're arguing with this dude, but you're not watching his friend behind you. He's like, maybe his friend went to the bathroom or whatever it may be. So you think you just have an issue with this guy, but you just didn't find out that you also got an issue with this guy on your left that you didn't see walk up on you. So sport kind of prepares you for what's directly in front of you, but I don't think it prepares you for, in a lot of cases, for the real world around you, what's going to actually happen in reality.
True.
Because just like in
So
movies, they don't come one at a time. they jump you. It's just,
Right. And it
well,
comes all at once.
actually, in movies they do kind of come one at a time because it's like
well,
that they surround
that's what I
you,
mean.
but it's
That's what I
like
mean.
yeah,
In movies and
but
in sport, they come one
yeah.
at a time. But in reality, that's not generally how that goes.
How do you balance the different types of students that come to you or did come to you throughout your whole career, as far as like those who just kind of wanted to learn sport versus those who wanted to learn self-defense or just get a good workout in? Did everybody kind of learn the same stuff, or how did you approach those different types of students?
Training was individual, and it has always been individual. It's never been a group process. Everyone comes into the school on their own journey, and it's my job as the instructor to bring out in you what you want to enhance in yourself.
Mhm.
It's all personal development when it comes to martial arts in the system that we're in. A lot of people come for different reasons. A lot of people put their kids in martial arts for one because they want a babysitter. They want someone to watch their kids after school.
Right.
That was a big thing, and that's how a lot of martial arts schools made money because they were into the aftercare program, and you had the students that were only there for the after school program. But you look at those students versus the students who came in that later class, is a different breed of students.
Mm-hmm.
The kids who came for the aftercare program, they weren't there so much because they wanted to be there. They were there because their parents wanted them to be there.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the kids who came later, and usually the kids that came in the next class, they were in the class with their parents. Whether their parents were students or their parents were sitting back watching, there was always an outside influence making the kids want to train more. There was always something, an extra incentive to make them train harder. Whether it be to compete in team sports or whether it be to enhance yourself in class and make yourself better all around. It depends on what the person's initial intentions were. And that's how you separate the students in the class.
Wow. I'm starting to get some of that experience myself, like starting to subbing for certain classes where like it is littler kids and it's just like it's more about just getting energy out of them because their parents don't want to deal with them for like half an hour as they get the rest of their day going. Or the older kids where they want that discipline but they don't know it yet. They just want to do something physical. They want to learn how to punch and kick. And then you have the adults who sometimes the adults start to do the classes because the kids they saw how much fun they were having, and then it kind of reverses, which is interesting to see. So yeah, it is. I like how you said it's kind of catered to the individual, what they were brought there for, what they may or may not know that they want out of that process. It's you find out more as the journey continues. Go ahead, Travis.
Right.
So speaking of that, what advantages would you say a kid coming into martial art has versus somebody who doesn't? Because a lot of the guys we're talking to and a lot of the guys I've had dealings with haven't had that experience with martial arts, whether it be growing up or as a teen or as an adult. They're just kind of getting into it, but they've always wanted to do it. And I could see the differences between not necessarily just me and them, but just people that we've trained with, other people that, other students that I've had interactions with, with training with you. people from my past dealing with EDMUND. There almost seems to be kind of like a different mentality when you kind of grown up in that realm of things versus, I mean, I would say probably with women and men. And with that, at what age, if you were to suggest to somebody, like for instance, EDMUND he's got a baby on the way. EDMUND's about to be a poppy here pretty soon. What age?
Congratulations.
What age would you suggest a person putting their kid into starting their kid in martial arts?
What age? I believe. Well, I started at age 4.
Mm-hmm.
I think when a child can walk and communicate, I think they should begin their martial arts training. Martial arts in countries outside of the United States is a way of life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a culture. It's a whole culture. It's part of the phys ed system.
Mm-hmm.
Students, martial arts to me is like religion. And people look at religion and they say, you can judge religion by the fruits of his labor.
Mm-hmm.
What comes out of it. You look at the average person in martial arts versus the person who has not taken martial arts. Their levels of self-esteem, self-discipline, their character development, their confidence levels, all of those are attributed in martial arts training. You develop a sense of self. You develop a sense of character. You develop a leadership ability to be in front of the group, to set the example. Martial artists will always perceive to know better than the other person because we were trained. It's a difference to having the trained eye versus a person who's just looking in. The trained eye picks up things that have become repetitious or habitual forming, versus the person who just sees things on the here and there. They might not pick it up as facts. When you drill things into your system and you drill things into your head, it becomes part of your makeup. It becomes instinctive. And a lot of people have not developed or have not come into to their life to develop an instinct when it comes to survival. Now, when we say survival, we're not just talking about combat. Survival goes on many different levels. Survival is mental and psychological survival, whether it be influencing people to see things the way you want to see them, or whether it comes to the mindset of the people as a whole. Martial arts influences that in the people. It teaches people strength. It teaches people unity. It teaches people psychological, spiritual, and physical development.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people that have not trained in martial arts. And when I say martial arts, I include stuff like boxing and wrestling too, because these are all forms of martial arts. These people have more discipline in the way they do things in life. It's like you can see the average boxer. You can spot a boxer because his shoulders are cocked a certain way, or his hands stay in a certain position when it comes to a boxer. There's a lower jaw when they talk to people. It's like they're always ready and prepared for a situation. Mm-hmm. They say you can look at a martial artist and they say martial artists walk on our toes. We look like we're ready to fly somewhere when we walk around. They're like, we're ready to fight. It's like, he look like he's ready to kick somebody in the head. You can tell by the way he walks. But that's not true. It's just the way we carry ourselves. We walk light. We walk comfortable. We walk aware. We walk with perception of our environment. It's one thing to walk and have your head tucked down while you're walking, looking at your feet, versus walking with your head held high and your chest stuck out. This is a matter of self-pride and self-esteem, that the self-esteem comes out. You're a prouder person when you train in a sport. You're a prouder person when you train into martial arts. You have more confidence to negotiate situations. You have more confidence to, whether it be academics, whether it be phys ed, whether it be sports, whether it be spiritual enlightenment, martial arts sets you on a path for leadership and standing in front of the situation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
All of that.
one thing we definitely talk about is that with martial arts, it shows you what you're capable of, and that eliminates a lot of the bullshit in life. Like, a lot of guys getting into fights. When somebody steps on their shoes when they're out, is like I want to fight over that. Where when you think about it, it's like, man, it's like I don't really need to fight this guy. It's like there's no reason I have nothing to prove to you because I've already proven myself in the dojo. It's like I'm not scared of you because I had to fight this man. It's just like it's like I've had to spar against him. It's like you can't do anything worse to me than what's gone on in the dojo before. Is like
Right.
you just can't. You can't. You're not gonna say something to me that's really gonna rile me up enough to really want to. Well, you can't fight. I know I can fight. It's like what do I need to prove it to you for? It's like I'm not gonna say we're all perfect in that because I've had my moments. There's been moments where you've had to pull me out of situations to just to be real. It's like you and I talked about it not too long ago where we were bouncing and it was we were bouncing at a nightclub and a guy he was starting something with another guy and he was a big guy, probably 6'2" at least, probably a good 300, and he and another guy were arguing. I moved in, kind of it's like, hey man, calm down. It's all good. Da 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 da. Then the guy started getting uppity with me, and because I'm smaller, I'm 5'6", he's 6'2", 6'3", whatever. And he got uppity with me and was like, started talking shit. And at a certain point, I was like, okay, it's like, let's go. And then next thing I know, I feel this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it's Sensei going, mm-mm. He just kind of guided me away from the situation and was like, no, it's not gonna happen. And I remember, and I'm gonna be honest, man, I was like, I never get to have no fun.
I felt that before.
I was like, every time this seems like there's about to be a situation where I'm about to get some shit, Sensei just pops up out of nowhere, just poof. He's just right there, and it's like, mm-mm.
And you know what? I asked that's him, why we have.
I was like, why do you always stop me? I never get to have no fun. Everybody else gets to have their shit. It's like, but I never get to have no fun. I never get to try out the thing.
Because I know what you're capable of. That's what.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, and it does. It's like, but it's one of those things where. We have to know that about ourselves, and I tell people martial arts kept me out of more fights than I've gotten into, 100%. Because it's one of those things that I know that one at a certain point is like me fighting you is not going to be worth it. Like I said, it's like I've had a spar sensei, and he's kicked my ass up and down the gym multiple times. It's like, and I get better, and then he's like, huss, and then next thing I know, it's something else is going on. So after that, me fighting you is going to be one is going to put me in a situation I don't want to be in, where it's more risk than reward at that point. It's like all that's going to happen is me and you are going to fight, and I'm in and talking to the police. That's all that's going to happen, and it's not worth it, especially for you talking shit to me about something that's not true. Why do I care? It's like, but I don't think a lot of guys have that perspective because they haven't trained to know what they're capable of. So they got to walk around feeling like they have something to prove to other men and to the world in a lot of cases. And I think that's, in a lot of cases, what get guys in trouble when they feel like they have something to prove.
Ego is a killer. Mm-hmm. Ego is a big killer. Ego affects everything that we come into in life. Whether it be a business situation, whether it be something in school, whether it be something in sports, ego has a big part to play in a person's personal development. Mm-hmm. The ego is the difference between, just like you said, getting into that situation or not getting into that situation. Mm-hmm. Fighting a person versus hashing it out and talking it out. Putting forth an air of strength versus putting a air of submission just for the sake of self-preservation in life. And when I say self-preservation, I don't mean just me. I mean you too. I'm trying to protect you. I don't want to just come out. My aim when I come out the house is I want to go to the store. I want to go. I want to buy my groceries. I want to drive my car. When I come home at the end of the night, my day is over. If I can't come home, I didn't win. Winning is coming home at the end of the night. Winning is surviving. Winning is sleeping in your own bed. Winning is not going to jail.
That's a big win.
That's winning. It's not about the tournament. It's not about the trophy. It's not about if I knocked you out or gave you a black eye. It's not about that. It's about survival and coming home at the end of the night. Whether it be coming home to your own personal bed or you coming home to your wife and kid. We have a higher purpose. We have a higher purpose as individuals. We have a higher purpose as men to be protectors and providers. And if we can't satisfy that first duty, then what good are we? What are we here for? We have to be the providers. We have to be the protectors. We have to be the ones that set the example for everybody else around us. You know, it's not about your ego, because your ego can get you killed. Your ego can tell you that, oh, he can't talk to me like that, but you don't know if he has a gun. Or I don't feel like hearing that B talk to me like that, or talking about a female. You called her a B. You know, you called her out of her name, but you don't know what friends or cousins or brothers she had. So now, because you didn't have respect for human life and the human process, you call somebody out of their name, and being a martial artist is being respectful. We don't call people out of their names for no reason, because we know how to avoid the situation. There's precursors to every situation. There's a precursor to every situation, whether it's a look, whether it's a movement, a premeditated movement, whether it's something heard, something smelled. They're all different types of triggers for a situation. How you react to those triggers, how you respond to those triggers, talks about the outcome that's coming next. Just because somebody stepped on your shoes, I don't care if you got new shoes, but just because somebody stepped on your shoes, you got to push them? For what? What does that prove when your shoes are still dirty? You're not getting him to clean your shoes for you. Okay? Shoes were meant to get stepped on. Shoes were meant to walk on. So that's not the reason for me to fight you over it or shoot you, because I've seen people get shot over a pair of shoes.
Yeah.
That happens.
And this is martial arts. This is martial arts in its fullest. Military combat skills. You know, we have to defend ourselves against everything. Every situation in life. You know, it could be the guy at the store who's working behind the counter, who's having a bad day, who he's dealt with so many customers and somebody pissed him off, but he's coming at you and he's trying to tell you in a little more of an aggressive voice than he usually talks. But you know him. But because he came out of his face in this particular situation, does that mean that you come back to him with aggression? You can't see that there's a situation happening today that was different than yesterday. Be aware of your total environment, not just the physical things that's around you. You got to look at the mental attacks. You got to look at the spiritual attacks. Because spiritual attack is real. The person's energy, what a person brings into an environment. I was told once before coming up as a kid, when you look at the person that has their hands balled up like this, pay attention to that person, because their energies are not circulated out. It's not in one side of your body and coming out the next. It's not coming into the head and coming out to the ground. It's not a conduction of energy. It's being bottled up and it's circulating within. So it kind of makes you it's like stopped up of energy inside. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It comes
makes you rigid.
and it's just balled up. It doesn't have a way of getting out.
Yeah.
And you take in a bunch of negative energy when you have your arms folded like that. You know, it's just energy conductors.
Yeah. That's why I love mentors, man. That's why it's always important to have somebody that is further along on that same path. We've said it 1,000 times. Have somebody that you can look forward to so that you don't have to be stuck where you are for longer than you need to be there. You know what I mean? And everything that you're saying, I've heard Travis say a couple of things that you're saying here, like, what happens next, whatever situation that you're going through, before you make a decision, think all the way to the end, figure out what the next thing is, because if it's not what you really want to do, then change that direction, change that direction that you're going. And
just not checkers.
Yeah. And it gives me that sense of, because a lot of what you're saying, I've heard from other senseis of mine and mentors and coaches and things like that. And it's like, man, I've been blessed to have a lot of positive influence in the martial arts that have shown me I don't have to just be stuck where I'm at. I can go these flips and punches and kicks, like it's just on the outside, it just looks like combat. And, I guess like a level of ferociousness or just trying to dominate another individual, but it's really dominating yourself. And when you dominate yourself, it'll really push you to different parts of the world just because you took the time to do that extra push-up, or you took the time to, fight that one last round or finish out that test, because you're pushing yourself past what you thought you were and putting yourself in new environments. I love it.
Us.
Definitely.
And it's the difference between working on techniques, practicing your techniques. You can do a 10-punch drill, but that 10-punch drill is not going to give you nearly the effectiveness of that 100-punch drill. That 100-punch drill is going to teach you repetitions and mistakes and habits that you make along the way. There's a lot of things to learn on that journey to 100. There's a lot of things to learn on that journey to 100, whether it be 100 punches, 100 kicks, or 100-man kumite. There's a lot of things to learn on that journey to 100.
That's a clip in itself right there. There's a lot to learn on a journey to 100. That's crazy.
Right.
Thank you, sir. Okay, giving us so much, but what would you say was your greatest challenge on that journey to 100?
I think for myself is the consistency. Telling yourself what you're supposed to do. Anybody can tell you there's a prescription for a certain amount of punches to get the greatest punch. Anybody can tell you that there's a certain prescription to do the perfect kick. But we know personally what our development is. We know personally what we need. Because for you, it might be 100 punches. For me, it might have to be 1,000. It depends on your personal development. It might take me more trial and error than it took you to understand that punch. But it's all about understanding that punch. It's not about just putting your arm out there. You know that. It's not about just turning your hip. It's not about just positioning your shoulders and getting all your bones aligned. But that's all stuff you learn on that journey to 100. You learn about your stance. You learn about your balance. You learn about your head positioning. You learn about your posture. You learn about your energy. You learn about your chi. You learn about many things on that journey to 100. And that's just one technique. That's just one thrust punch. There's so many facets of techniques. Let's say karate, right? In karate, there are, let's say, 32 techniques. Let's say there's 32 techniques. Out of 32 techniques, you work those on 100 drill repetition. How much knowledge about yourself have you developed in that journey to 100 on those 32 techniques? Not just the difference between Ippon Kenuchi or Nihon Nukai or Johan Nukai. It's about what angle did I put that hand? Did I tilt my fingers down a little bit when I did that technique? Did I angle my fist? Did I position my knuckles to point with the first two knuckles? Do you understand? Did I turn my hip when I put that punch? Or am I just hitting with my arm? Am I just doing an upper body workout, or am I doing a full body workout, working on a punch? Which it has both effects. It has both effects. You can get a full body workout on just doing thrust punch in a horse stance.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Thrust punch and a horse stance. And how many people have you seen today that can still do a horse stance and sit in it for an hour and do those 100 punch drills?
I can't.
We know those legs shake, but that's what development came from. Early in martial arts, we didn't train with weights too much. Martial arts training came from body weight exercises and calisthenics.
Yes.
All those drills that you did sitting in Zenku Sudatsu, that's the same thing as doing walking lunges. Zenku Sudatsu, walking forward and thrust in forward stance, horse stance, box squats, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Box squats. What's the other exercise we used to do, Travis, with the squats?
Oh man, bunny hops.
Bunny hops. Same thing. Developing your quads, developing your calves, developing the ankle stability. Practicing on bricks, elevated from the ground, developing the stability in your ankle, developing your mental awareness to stay still on that brick, because if you don't fall, you're going to fall on the ground.
Yes.
Today's fall on the ground might be falling on a carpet or some mats. Yesterday's fall on the ground was falling on bricks, falling on glass, falling on spikes.
Had to get it right.
You had more incentive not to hit that ground.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't put that out here today because a lot of that is against the legal ramifications of today's society. Oh, you can't do that anymore. That's cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes.
But I'm preparing my students for that now, so they don't have to wait for that in the street.
Facts.
I don't want you to wait in the street to prepare for getting out of the way of a punch or a bullet. I want you to know about that now.
Yes.
If you don't grab that gun the right way, that pistol the right way, when you're disarming a person, you will get shot.
Yes.
There's no moment of hesitation. There's no music that comes on as a precursor to the fight. It happens just like that. And you must be prepared at all times. And being prepared is repetition. Being prepared is practicing. You can't expect to perform anything at optimal levels if you haven't been practicing it on a regular basis. Perfect example. My instructor used to tell us, don't go to the tournament if you haven't been training in the dojo. You might get it in the tournament. You might just win first place. But for us that know, you didn't earn it because you didn't train. You got it off of natural instinct and talent. You didn't get it because your body was tuned into you. Your body was trained and developed, and those repetitions were put in, those drills were put in. You sweated and you bled and you fought and you cried to get to that point. There was no sacrifice, so you didn't earn it.
So it's a fluke.
Say that?
It was a fluke.
It's a fluke. I can't say it's a fluke because you won. I won't take that away from you.
Yeah.
But you didn't earn it as we earned it. You didn't put that time in the dojo. That's like a person, that's like telling me this. Travis, you're a natural talent. I can take you to black belt in a year because you have natural talent. Versus Edmund, it might take you 3 years. But Edmund comes in every day. Travis, you come in every once in a blue moon, just a week before promotion. You have natural talent. Do you pass promotion? You can pass it on skill and raw technique, but do you have the spirit that the Edmund have developed over that time? The essence of that technique, that journey to 100 of those punches, that journey to 100 of those kicks, that hour in horse stance, that 60-minute kata that we talked about. Have you worked on those things? Have you developed that fortitude in your system as a martial artist to say that, yes, I'm prepared to get out there in front of this crowd and compete. Yes, I'm prepared to walk out in the street today and defend myself if I need to, because I've been working on this. I've been preparing myself. I've been working the past. you can't expect to get what you haven't put out. You reap what you sow.
Us.
Absolutely. Man, so much power in that. Consistency. In a word, consistency. But that's something that's gonna stick with me, is that journey to 100, or like you said, it could be 1,000. But I think if I had to boil it down to one thing, everything that you said is that you learn knowledge itself in every aspect of every technique on that way
Absolutely.
to 100. So every punch is not a punch until it just becomes a punch to you again. But you've learned so much throughout that repetition about yourself, about your body. And I'm just like, man, that's because you're right. With my journey to martial arts, that was my greatest lesson, was knowledge of self, because it led into so many other things in life. So thank you for putting into words what I couldn't over so much time. I appreciate you for that.
Us.
So
one thing I want to leave you guys with is I love you guys' this podcast, The Warriors Way Home. But one thing I'm going to leave you with is the mindset of the samurai, the mindset of the Ronin. We live in the age of the Ronin. We live in the age of the masterless samurai. You know, we live in an age where we must keep death in mind at all times. We live in an age where every day must be considered our last. Where we fulfill ourselves to our fullest potential on a daily basis, reaching PRs every day, personal development every day. Not just because I went into the gym, but what I did today out in the street was different than what I did yesterday. I came up more on a level up today than I was yesterday. Every day must be better than the last. With our personal development in life, whether it be with our children, whether it be with our wives, whether it be with our families or our coworkers. Everybody must be on a mindset of Ronin, of leveling up, of always being better one day than you were the last. Always coming up, always leveling up, never settling for what you have today. Because what you have today is good, and appreciate that. But tomorrow must be better than yesterday. The warrior's mindset is to always fortify your stronghold, always enhancing and improving your fortifications, always making it stronger, always making it better, always making enhancements. And when we talk about our fortitude, we talk about our body, we talk about our homes, we talk about our cars, we talk about our families, we talk about everything that's encompassed in our lives to make those things better on a daily basis, not just staying in the now. We have to be looked at tomorrow's development, tomorrow's progress. How much further can I get there tomorrow? Who can I bring with me? Who can I bring with me tomorrow? Because I'm not doing this by myself. I'm doing this with my community. Whether the community is your family member, or your community is your best friend, or your community is your coworker. As a community, the samurai takes care of his home. You know, the samurai takes care of the village. The samurai is in charge of security and supervision and providing for his community. And us as individuals, us as men, us as black men, us as samurai, we have to put that forth on a regular basis. And if we can instill that into the everyday man, to see that he has a sense of responsibility that he must obtain on a regular basis in order for this society to run the way it should run, then we can say we succeeded. But until we can get that mindset on everybody, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yes, sir.
Woo! Now that's a closeout right there. There's nothing left to say. There's nothing left to say, guys. Sensei.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate
Absolutely.
it. So much. You I think you gave a perspective to people that like I said, I've been blessed and honored to have these conversations so much over the years, and it's definitely impacted me so much that I really wanted to, make sure we bring you on and have you share that with the world and share that with these guys, man, because like I said, just that spill there, guys. We could just clip that. And if guys listen to that on a regular basis, on a daily basis, when they started getting in all these other spaces that they were in, if they just listen to that piece of it, man, a lot would change. A lot would change. So definitely appreciate you, Sensei, for sure.
Oh,
Yes, sir. We gotta do this again. This is great.
absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is that in order to keep that kind of conversation going, what question would you have? Because we're going to have lots of guests. You're the first actual sensei we've been able to have. I'm very honored to have on the show. We've had other mentors of ours, but now that we're getting kind of more into the martial arts aspect of it, what would be one question you would leave for the next sensei or the next guest that we end up having?
Self-mastery and understanding of self.
Mm-hmm.
The self-mastery and understanding of self. What have you understood about yourself in your journey? What have you seen on your path to 100? What have you learned on your journey?
Yes.
What can you teach me about your journey?
Yes.
Nice.
Because everybody's journey to 100 is different.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say my style is better than yours. You can't say your style is better than his, because everybody's personal journey to 100 was different. It's about how we understand and apply those techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, that's
yes,
beautiful.
sir.
I love that. We're gonna have to clip this and actually give that to have that ready for the next guest that we have. And Sensei, we're definitely gonna have to bring you back on, man. This was amazing, and I loved every minute of this.
Absolutely, man. This has been beautiful. All right, sir. I think we can wrap it here. So, Travis, where can they find us?
So they can find us on main channels on YouTube, where we do our video podcast. Anywhere where you can find podcasts, that would be Apple, Amazon Music, Spotify, all these things like that. Catch us on the Instagram. We'll definitely be posting up some clips of this conversation, probably multiple of them, because man, there were so many gems in this one that there's going to be a lot of clips of this floating around for sure, 100%. Yeah. So, but definitely tune in. We're shooting for having a episode go up every 2 weeks, probably on Mondays is what we're shooting for right now. And definitely tune in, man, because we got a lot more information coming. Everything from these conversations, interviews at the feet of masters, interviews with different people in the community, to martial arts demonstrations, to just manhood, masculinity, and business as well. So
that might need to be the name of our interview series.
I already put it up at the feet of masters. I already put it
at
up.
The feet of masters.
This is at the feet of masters, episode 1, right here.
Yes, sir. Perfect.